I also want to recognise some other friends who are with us today. We got Jim Bresnahan, who is former president of the Bricklayers Union and the current chair. He's also the current chair of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We have Tony Booker, who is the president of the Irish Literary and Historical Society. We have Sean Caniff, who is the publisher and editor of the Irish Herald newspaper. We have Sean Keegren, who is the president of the Residential Builders Association. And we have Commissioner Angus McCarthy, who is president of the Immigrant Rights Commission. So for anybody who has not been to an Irish American Democratic Club event previously, I want to remind you that we are a club that is committed to traditional Democratic Party values, building a strong economy, honouring labour, protecting the environment, and providing a voice for the disenfranchised and the disabled. But uniquely for our club, we also hold a place of special recognition for the contributions of Irish immigrants and Irish Americans. And one of the great heroes of our club is the late President John F. Kennedy, and one of the reasons why we're here today. Now, when I grew up in Ireland back in the 1970s and 80s, like most Irish families, we had an iconic image of John F. Kennedy on one of our walls. And to this child of 4 or 5, the story was explained to me how this guy was a great Irishman who became President of the United States of America. And so that translated very simply for me to meaning that this guy got out of bed in Ireland one day, took a boat to Boston, he landed there, they said, hey, this is one hell of a guy, let's put him into the White House. So it was beautiful, it was magical, and it was poetic, and obviously it was going to be true. But as a couple of years developed and I realised that there was a lot more nuances to the story, I decided to investigate, what is the real story of this great success of this Irish guy. And what I discovered was the story of a very ordinary Irish person, and his name was Patrick Kennedy. And he came from a small community called Duncanstown, County Wexford, on the southeast coast of Ireland. And Patrick survived the genocide of the 1840s in Ireland, which later was sanitised to be known as the Irish Famine. And in 1849, like millions of Irish people, Patrick was on the run from starvation and a British government that couldn't care less. So he made his way to Boston, and 6 months later he was joined by his fiancée, Bridget Murphy. And if you can just picture the scene, back in their own country they were discriminated against. When they came to America, they're faced with the sense of loss and loneliness and displacement that comes with immigration. And then when they tried to establish themselves in the new world, they were faced with a new form of discrimination. And it was double discrimination. One, they were despised because they were Irish, and secondly, people were suspicious of them because they were Roman Catholic. So when they went to find a job, they would see signs that had the symbol at the end, NINA. Does anybody know what NINA means?
No Irish flags need a flag.
What is it?
No Irish.
Exactly. So even to this day, it sticks in our memory of how brutal that was. But anyway, this story could go on for a long time, but Patrick Kennedy died in 1858. He was only 35 years old. And he left his wife with 5 children to rear. So if we were to fast forward to the time of John F. Kennedy, the heartbreak of the Kennedy story, of the Murphy story, of the Fitzgeralds and all the Irish people, acted as a wake-up call for John F. Kennedy. And it was a source of inspiration to him when he set out to end discrimination, particularly racial discrimination. And it also acted as an inspiration when he set out to establish the Peace Corps, about looking after those people who were less fortunate than yourselves. So if we go back to the story that was told to the 5-year-old kid in Ireland in the 70s, the reality of the story is far more heroic, because it's the story of hunger, of adversity, of overcoming it, and working within a system to change it for the better. And because of all that, not only is it a great Irish story, but it's a brilliant American story, because that's the story of our past. So, having said all of that, again, I'd like to thank you all for coming here. I'm really excited to later present to Jane Morrison, but for now, I'll pass it back to Jim. Thank you.